want to turn to taxes. 2020 candidate Bernie Sanders announcing a proposal this week that would take aim at companies that pay high-level executives much more than the median employee salary. If his plan is in place, and if it had been in place last year, J.P. Morgan Chase would have paid up $991.6 million more in taxes. Walmart, $793.8 million. McDonald's, $110.9 million more. Joining us right now is Fat Brands International Chairman and the former CEO of McDonald's USA, as well as famous Dave's Barbecue, Ed Rensi. And Ed, it is great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
I just want to read you the headline of Bernie Sanders' tax plan, and he says this. Sanders releases income inequality tax plan. The plan would increase taxes on greedy companies that pay CEOs 50 times more than median workers. That's the headline of the actual press release, greedy companies. What's your reaction?
Well, I don't have much confidence in anything that Bernie Sanders says, frankly. No corporation in the world pays taxes. They collect money from customers for goods, services, and taxes. The customers will ultimately pay that. It's inflationary. It's ridiculous on its face, and he knows it. The Communist Party that's now parading around as the Democratic Party has got to stop this nonsense. We have a capitalist system, free markets, and they got to come to grips with that. There's no way Bernie Sanders is ever going to get elected. He's praying to make money or maybe become vice president candidate, but he's never going to get elected. He's absurd.
And it's John Hilsenrath. He's clearly nailing down on the idea that executives are making too much money. I mean, do you think that that's something that resonates with the public at all, and that's something that a Republican has a response to?
Well, you know, it's always a difficult question because greed is not a favorable trait in a human being. But if these companies are doing extremely well and the board votes that kind of salaries and wages, we got a free country here. We can do that. Do I agree with it? No. Do I think those wages need to be managed more to the benefit of the shareholders and dividends? Yes. But the fact of the matter is, this is a free country, and we get to do those kinds of things. If the boards vote for it, then it's done. If the shareholders don't like it, they can vote the boards out. We got a good system of controls here, so I'm not going to opine on what any executive makes. If the company and the shareholders are benefiting from their leadership, they ought to get rewarded for it.
So, Ed, I had a quick question for you. I know specifically targeting the CEOs, but what about the companies like Amazon that get these major tax breaks? But Jeff Bezos, we just learned with Whole Foods, is cutting health care for some of his employees, not treating his employees like Chick-fil-A, giving them above the minimum wage, making sure that they have health care. What is the response? Should they be getting those tax breaks, the companies themselves, not the CEOs?
Well, if we had an effective government at every level where we really focused on what is needed to be done for the overall growth of the entire country and all the population, I think some of these tax breaks for some of these huge corporations ought to be stopped, slowed down, modified, changed. I think investment in the community is part of the responsibility. The first goal, responsibility of any company is make a profit, because without profit, there is no charity. But profit should not come at the expense of the taxpayer through unneeded subsidies.
Well, that's not what the Business Roundtable said recently, right? The Business Roundtable said that profits are not going to be the #1 priority.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a very difficult world if profit isn't a priority, because businesses that lose money ultimately fail and go away.
Yeah. What about the higher minimum wage? What about the higher minimum wage conversation? It's already in effect here in New York City. Some restaurants are feeling the heat, cutting hours, firing staff, even closing because they cannot afford to pay $15 minimum wage. What's your reaction here? What is the answer to income inequality? I mean, I know that wages are already up year over year, and it is tightening. But how do you answer the critics that say, look, the only way to do it is to raise wages, raise taxes?
Well, clearly, if you look at California, New York, and a couple other states that are run by Democratic governments where these minimum wages have been going up, you look at Seattle, Washington, the job loss is staggering. Some people make more money but a lot of other people are out of jobs. And we've really got a situation where we have full employment in this country, and it's very, very difficult to find employees in a lot of communities now. And I see starting wages at $14, $15, $16, $17 an hour for people that have zero job skills. So it's a mixed bag depending on where you're at. The cost of living is so high in New York City that the wages have got to be higher. But a lot of small businesses are going to go out of business simply because labor is such a high component of the P&L.
Ed, real quick, it's Dagan McDowell. Looking at the candidates for the Democratic nomination, who frightens you the most in terms of their policies?
I'll tell you what, this Democratic Party is not the party of my father, who was a teamster and a truck driver and worked in the coal fields. They all scare me because they are fundamentally saying that this free market, this country of ours, this capitalist system, the rights of the individual mean nothing, that the state government has to take over. And I've traveled around the world. I've been to Sweden, been to Finland, been to China, and I'll tell you, they're dreaming because the world does not thrive under communism or socialism. It's a real bad idea, and I don't like any of them.
All right, we will leave it there on that note. Ed, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Ed Rensi joining us there.